subject. Today's subject is very interesting. When we are talking about the financing SME for the flexible, sustainable, and inclusive growth paths. Friends, we are having eminent speaker with us. We are Dr. B.K. Javed sir. We are Mr. Rajesh Mundra. We have Ravi Nandan Sinha and Chartered Accountant Mani Merans. Friend, we are more than 350 registration with us beside the YouTube and other medias. Friends, SMEs, you are aware that playing very important role and they are very important contributor to economic activities, employment, growth and innovations. Fund procurement struggles become an almost internal issue across world. Whether we are talking about the contribution to GDP, we're talking about the national export, even for Indian scenarios, it is playing important role. लेकिन major aspect is the financing. When we are talking about data available with us, 919.06 billion US dollar total lending is there, out of which only 25.27% goes to SME sector, and there big gap of 209 billion under the SME sector. When we are talking about the SME sector, we feel that about 95% of the SMEs, we are talking about the macro, they are not even registered. They are not getting the benefit. Even 74, 76% are not availing the loan from the banking sector, and they are going for their own funds or from the unorganized sector. Still feeling is like that. Government undertaken so many schemes, so many ways to go ahead with the financing under the various schemes. Various steps has been taken by the government. Either we are talking about the digital transformations, because the lending are through digital platforms also. Increased number of lending platforms, whether we are talking about the 59 minutes or we are reaching to the GST. That is also major aspect. And definition of SME sector undergoing change, big change. When we're talking about the investment in plant investment, we're talking about 50 crore. If you are having a machinery, that too having a depreciated value without original cost. I think this is a major change happened during recent past. If you are investment in plant and machinery about 50 crore rupees, that too as per depreciated value and having a turnover of 100 250 crore rupees, you can classify the account as a SME sector. Government has taken so many initiatives under the COVID period. Whether we are talking about 3 lakhs crore rupees set aside for the fund, we giving the 100% bank government guarantee beside the subordinate debts funds and without emergency line of credit, what we are talking about, and even global tenders. There are so many concessions has been given to the SME sector. So we are discussing in detail how the encouragement has been taken place for the SME sector. As you're talking about the Khadia village industry, you're talking about the self-employment or any other scheme. There are so many schemes. We were Make in India, Startup India, and so many schemes government has come out where you can avail the loans. Now, major aspects what we're talking about is agenda that we have prepared, we have circulated. So we are going to discuss the mobilizations SME finance for revival. We are also going to talk about the impact of the COVID pre-period and sound insolvencies. We are talking about the role of local institutions and governance for hosting SME across the financing. We are also talking about understanding and addressing the risk of the SME and indebtedness and insolvency, expected growth in SME insolvency, and potential policy reactions. Besides that, because we are in this webinar, I am trying to touch to a practical aspect, not in a theoretical aspect. What we are talking about, all the practical persons are there. So we will talk about the practical things. Government introduced what we are talking about, the Make India India, Stand Up India, Digital India, Startup India, Skill India, easy of doing business, and rise of India. There are so many, you can say, scheme introduced by the government. So we will discuss in details. Now coming to very respected Ravi Nandan Sinha, who is a director, MSME Business Forum India. Mr. Ravi Nandan Sinha, 25 plus year of corporate experience and ex-regional business head, Kotak, head Gujarat, ex-associate director of Tata, AII, board members of and director of SME Business Forum India currently, working closely in promoting what we are talking about, Make in India. Venture made him in touch with many heads of the state of different countries visiting India, like Prime Minister, Japan, Cobra, and so many presidents during visit of the, we're talking about the President Brazil in 2019. He has been part of delegation invited by other government for study tour to see the working of SME sectors industry in 2018 and 2022. As a board member of the firm, he is instrumental in starting creating an exclusive fund pool with family offices, investors, especially to promote and fund adoption, renewable energy by SME sector. I think he has been awarded so many honors by the Mahadevi Burma honors for his contribution to SME transformation. I think he is the right person to talk. Sir, what is the impact? What I am talking about? What is the impact of the COVID and priorities? Found sound recovery. I think there was a vast impact. So there is a problem also. Lekin I think maximum solution is there. When we undergone from the problem, so some solution has also come up. What I feel it during 1 year or 1.5 year, what how the industry has gone into a problem, lekin that is also going for benefit. So I hand over to Mr. Ravi to give your thoughts about this system as an sector, sir, because who you are helm of here, you can also tell make in India. I think this is a major aspect in our sector, sir. I hand over to Mr. Ravi.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. It's an honor to be on the panel with you, such a seasoned banker and such a seasoned industry influencer today. I think I'm very happy to be with fellow panelists to talk about this very, very critical issue and share my views and thoughts. Maybe that can be taken as some kind of a learnings over a period of time that I've learned in multinational companies and now in MSME Business Forum India. Mr. Gupta, the point was very, very valuably of the effect of COVID or the effect of pandemic. Now, I will say from two perspectives, from good, from bad. I'm sure my fellow panelists will agree on this. Number one, and I think that's a takeaway here is, as an industry, whether it is a large corporate or it's a small and medium enterprise, we always used to make contingencies for an internal, I can say internal exigencies, whichever comes, or an internal threat. COVID actually taught the industry as a whole how you should be prepared for an external threat also. This external threat was never considered. This external threat was never taken into any strategical decisions. And I would say, because of this external threat, we started learning, or we started having to understand that flexibility and adoption becomes very, very, very critical. What do you mean by adoption? Adoption means various other alternative methods of functioning, not the conventional way, not the orthodox way of functioning or running an industry. We had to adopt to new cultures. We had to adopt to new practices. I'll give you a very small example. We could never believe that work from home could be productive. Today, right from a banking institutions to a back office to IT, everybody adopted work from home and they proved that productivity could be matched. Now that's adopting. That's a COVID situation, and you adopt to in this pandemic. Our MSMEs were very happy to go digital. And I'm telling you, Saab, and to my fellow panelists, it would have been very tough to make them understand the importance and the and the benefits of being digital, which this pandemic gave them, of going digital, of adopting digital best practices, and how this can be utilized for better customer experience. Most importantly, sustainability and SME, or I would rather say an MSME, would always think that that was a cup of tea only for large corporates. How to go into the path of a sustainable growth. Now that has fallen into their day as well. For sustainable growth, what all extra measures you have to take, you have to build yourself, which meant industry went back to drawing board. And this is good for the country also. It is good because when an industry goes back to drawing board, reconsider itself, its best practices, its strategy, it will give a growth. And that growth is what we will see. And I think over the few days that you are reading, our recovery ratio is better than very many developing countries. And that's a very positive sign, Mr. Gupta.
Yes, you're right, sir.
So this is because we have adopted very well. We have understood some of the measures, and it is not stopping here, because from here it starts. This will be my opening remarks here, Mr. Gupta.
I agree with you, sir. What you're talking about, the adoption, digitalizations. I think working from home, I think this is a plus point for us. When we are talking about the negative point, what is the challenges they are facing it? Either we are talking about the high cost of credit, or we are talking about the information availability. We are talking about the creditworthiness. We are talking about the complex lending procedures. We are talking about the limited access of the finance. What do you view in that respect, sir? Because what you talk about the availability, you can say that means your adoption. So what are the challenges? How this SME sector can be met, sir?
Mr. Gupta, please understand the challenges have increased over the period of time.
Yeah,
It has not decreased. If you had pre-pandemic period, and I think my good panelist friend Mr. Rajesh Mundra will also agree here. If an SME had 4 issues to attend to post-pandemic, today it had 8 issues to attend. And you have been a very seasoned banker, Mr. Gupta. The idea was, in order to attend to the challenges, what have they done? I'll give you a very small example. The bank always sees the cash flows. He always says your balance sheet will always reflect on how your cash flows are coming. But I will go one step behind, because I think in Tata's we always used to say this to our PMs, to our ancillaries. How well have you minimized your cost in terms of your inventory management? in terms of your overheads. Now, this thing, which was a priority number 3 for an SME, became a priority number 1 post-pandemic. The SOPs of a bank, of a lender, will never change. It may become stringent, but it will never change. But we have to think from the other perspective, is how we are making our processes more dynamic so that our balance sheets are not affected in terms of cash flows. And most important thing was operational. A lot of people, since I have already created a fund pool for solar, so I would say solar adoption would have reduced your electricity cost. Now, how many people went for solar adoptions? People are going for rooftop open access. Similarly, how many people adopted technology to check out on their inventory management? You can't hold inventory. You have slow moving inventories. That's your cost. Now, adoption of automations. I would not say, I'm not saying that you adopt straight away a costly affair. Why did you not adopt practices which would increase your productivity? So these are certain examples of the challenges I'm trying to give you.
Sir, what you're talking about, these are the, when you are talking about the inventory to minimize the inventory or cash flow, I think cash flow is a major aspect of this SME sector, because at present, we will talk to Mr. Mundra. So at present, we are going for the balance sheet lending instead of the cash flow lending. I think this is the most important issue in these days. We should have a cash flow lending instead of the balance sheet lending. We are talking about the asset lending, asset-based lending. What about the cash flow, sir? That is also important. You also mentioned about the cash flow. You also mentioned about the minimizing the cost. These are the, you can say, suggestion we are talking about. Major aspect, what challenges we are facing by the SME sector is about what we are talking about, the high cost of credit. This is a major issue, and somewhat has been reduced by, you can say, improving the repo rate of interest or something. Every bank is going increasing the rate of interest, and we are talking about the low research, because this is also major aspect. R&D was also major aspect for the SME sector, sir. That is also point. So, Mundra sir, we're talking about the balance sheet lending, or we are talking about the cash flow lending. You can say something, Mr. Mundra, because being a banker, you have some view for that?
Yeah, definitely, Gupta sir. And again, I thank you for inviting me in this virtual webinar, and give me an opportunity to interact with such a learned panelist, along with such an experienced person like you, Mr. Gupta. So thank you for inviting me. And very rightly, the point of discussion which is right now going on, cash flow lending, not only in this panel, almost all over India, including RBI and everywhere, this cash flow lending is a major subject nowadays, because nowadays what bankers are doing is security based or asset based lending, but the time has gone for that. With the introduction of those digital players, those fintechs in this lending arena, now the situation is start changing, and banks, even public sector banks, are compelled to go for cash flow lendings also. So a lot of changes are being made, many schemes are coming. Uh, Even our banks are also going through. In fact, this digitalization process has changed entire landscape of lending also. Although still it is at nascent stage in India, but the future belongs to that. I'll come later on this topic, sir.
Okay,
Please carry on.
thank you, Mr. Munda. Just I am, because being a banker, I'm just asking, because these days in all webinar or something like that, it is being discussed about the cash flow lending, because the cash flow is a major aspect in the thing. If you are having the assets, but as Mr. Sinha also told, some inventory is not in a moment. Some inventory, dead inventories are there. Like still to carry on, that is a cost involved. So why we should finance for the only assets, you can say, based lending instead of, this is important issue. We will come back to you. Sir, Sinha sir, any view about, you can say, data availability? Because every banker, I were feeling like that. They are telling they are not having a database with them. They are not have a balance sheet. They are not have a projections. They are giving so many information. Even banks still are insisting for the CMA data, which was introduced, I think, in a 1974, 75 under a Tandon and Chore committee. Are still that CMA data, that information, was still enforcing. Sinaji, you are the helm of fear of Make in India also. Have any view on that, sir?
Sir, from the position where I am, I can only say one thing, sir. The
Sir,
bankers have their own SOPs to follow. We are from the policy side, so we can only recommend a standard recommendations to them. End of the day, the regulations, Gupta Sahab, you have been 40 years into bank, so I think more than me, you know that what a banker wants. So he will take the pointers from the policy, but actually, again, I would say the flexibility part has to come up. Mundra Sahab, I would request one point here, that has to be a there has to be a difference when we ask for a data, or there has to be a difference in approach once the credit sees SME, which unfortunately we are still following the orthodox method. Mr. Gupta is smiling, so I can understand what you are meaning. But the point is, sir, this is purely a financial institution's prerogative.
that is not, sir, because we are here to discuss the practical aspects. Because my members are also useful for benefited for that, sir. If they are going for the only financial data, my only point here is that is the our association for the financial advisor of India, where all the financial experts are there, can be useful. That my point is that if still banks should undergo a change of their policy. What I'm talking about Tandon Chore, which was introduced in 1974, 75. Now we are talking about 50 years. Still, they are enforcing for that. Only we are giving some suggestion under this webinar, be how the bank can also think in that line to have a, instead of a asset-based lending, there should be a cash flow-based lending. That is the point. Sir, I will come back to Mr. Sinha again. I am coming to Dr. Sir, Dr. B.K. Javier. Sir,
Yes,
he is the professor of economics and head department of economics, Jain University, deemed to be a university. Dr. Sir is a professor of economics and head of the department of economics in Jain University. He is a professor of general management in CMS Business School, Bangalore. He did PhD in international finance from Mahatma Gandhi University. He has 32 years of teaching experience in 5 universities. He is a passionate teacher and researcher in economics. He is an author of 16 textbooks in economics and published several research papers in national and international journals. He extends consultancy to NGO, MSMEs, and government bodies. He is a committed academician, scholar in economics, passionate teacher, and social entrepreneur. Dr. Sir, I think you are such a scholar and you have done something for the SME sector, sir. Sir,
yes,
my point is to understand, we all banks are talking about the risk,
yes,
how the risk can be addressed under the SME sector. It is also felt, sir, some banker, when you're talking about the banker, sir, it
yeah,
is felt that during this COVID period, government allowed so many concession,
right,
so many restructuring, so
yes,
many information. Those
yes,
banker are feeling that it is over indebtedness
right,
and it leads to be insolvency. Have
right.
any view on that, in fact, doctor?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Gupta, sir. Thanks for the nice opening remark by Ravi, sir. And thanks for the compliments of all my learned panelists. At the outset, I am grateful to the organizers for having invited me to share my views on this. Gupta sir has already told me I should speak about the risk associated with the MSME sector. We had a huge disruption from the pandemic, and the most disrupted sector was MSMEs. You know, the migrant laborers, they are operating the MSMEs in Bangalore. But when when the COVID spread, they all went away. It was a disaster of allowing them to go back, and they were in a contained mode, and this led to disruption in the supply chain, logistics, production, and all are what we are suffering is today. I would say MSME is an orphan child, and they have a differential treatment which is given to MSMEs. 11 crores of MSMEs. 11 crores is a MSME sector which employs India's labor force. And 50%, more than 50% of India's exports come from MSME. That's the importance of the MSME. When we speak about the gross value added to our GDP, 33% of our gross value added is coming from MSME sector. So considering the importance of this sector, and when this particular sector was disrupted, it was a matter of equity and justice that we do some attention to this particular sector, that is MSME, which we have never done. Across the years, I was negotiating with the governments to have a research data, a database on the MSME, but we do not have a clear database on the MSME. So research is impossible. I was negotiating for an MSME university. We have several universities for milk, silk, and for horticulture, agriculture, export, but we never had a university particularly addressing the problem of MSME, because they should cater to the research and development of MSME sector. So what is a major risk? Major risk is that when you borrow, you may default. And that default is maybe willful or a natural default. Individuals borrow, firms borrow, countries borrow, and they repay, but there can be delay. We have experienced in 2012 sovereign debt crisis. Several countries, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain, and even Japan threatened that they are going to default their foreign debt. Few months back, we have a neighbor country, an island nation, Sri Lanka, falling to sovereign debt crisis. We have several corporates, big corporates, who are not able to repay. We have Anil Ambani's companies. You have big one, Jayaprakash Associates, and we have several referrals to the NCLT where the companies have to be declared bankrupt and dissolved. So bankruptcy and dissolve, IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which was addressed to these large corporates. And now we are telling that countries, you should also be forgiven. So, Mr. Gupta, my first point to you is retribution, forgiving the debt of the countries, forgiving the debt of the companies, and forgiving the debt of the individuals when they are unable to repay. It is not a purposeful default. It is a default because of the pandemic time. So that is what we have presented before. Retribution was there. If you take the case of Sri Lanka in a larger country basis, I will come to the individual MSME cases. But when you take a country basis, there are many countries which have defaulted their foreign loans. We have examples of Mexico, Argentina, Chile, Brazil. All these were original sinners. And why did they sin? The reason was they were not able to borrow in their own currency. We borrow in foreign currency. And when the foreign currency appreciate and domestic currency depreciate, you have to repay 3 times, 4 times, 5 times than what we have borrowed. Sri Lanka borrowed at 15 rupiah for $1. Today, Sri Lanka rupiah is 258 rupiah for $1. So what you have borrowed is 54. What you have to repay is about 258. That there is no justice. And that is where the countries say we are going to default, because there is no way we can repay what we have borrowed is a small amount. And this we economics call it as original sin. Original sin is the problem of the companies and the countries and the individuals, where we are not able to borrow in our own currency, we have to borrow in foreign currency. And that was a problem with the Anil Ambani. He borrowed in foreign currency, and the foreign currency depreciated, the domestic currency depreciated, and he has to pay a huge amount of money, and company collapsed, and he is nowhere. You know what is happening to Reliance Power. You know what is happening to Reliance Communication. They are non-functioning companies. So what was a solution internationally taken was, considering the original sin, one, the creditors has to be sufferers. I have a Ravi sir, see who are the creditors? Banks are lending and MSME is borrowing. So should we bail out the debtors or should we bail out the creditors? This is a question. Now the time has come, the creditors have to bear the brunt of the debtors' inability to pay. So therefore, we have bailed out the farmers, we have bailed out many industries, and this is the right time. We also have to bail out the MSMEs. This is my first concern with the risk of lending to the MSME sector. They contribute. What is their contribution? Your exports, your gross value added, your employment, your taxes. When all are taken care of by these MSMEs, which are a huge chunk of the economy sector, we should stand by and we should also forgive them if they are unable to repay the loan. This is what we have done in the recent measures of financial assistance which we have done to the MSME sector. So that is what my first answer to the risk bearing of the MSME sector. Mr. Gupta, you may agree.
Thank you, Professor Saab. I think you have touched a very, very important point.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I am hearing, because I've conducted so many webinars, even for the CIA, PhD, even everybody I have done it. Like this is SME University. I think this is a new concept. What you are talking about, I think it is the order of the day. When we are talking about agriculture university, we are talking about the silk industry, we are talking about the university for all that things. I think this is also order of the day. And we are also talking about the research data, which is not available. Which in opening remarks, I also feel that research data should be made available to the SME sector. And what additional what you're talking about, the creators should build out the SME sector.
Yeah.
I think, sir, still it is going on, because when we are going to NCLT, I think you know that how much haircut is going on in that respect. Either we are talking about the restructuring of the account, either we are talking about the sale of the assets, either we are talking about other things. I think there are so many things are available. Sir, my only point for the risk factor, what we are talking about the risk factor, how the risk can be addressed, because risk can be in so many ways. It can be operational risk, it can be financial risk, it can be risk for the receivable also, sir, because as per the norms of the non-performing assets, it is 90 days norms are there.
Right.
Lekin for receivable, some people are not paying. Even PSUs are not paying to these SME sector. When we are talking about, if they are not paying for a 6-month period at asset rest, and definitely they will not pay to the banker. So banker after 90 days say, "No, you are gone. It is empty account." Have any view, Professor sir, for that?
Yeah. Uh, Mr. Gupta, when we address the risk of the MSME, major risk is that they do not have finance. Financial risk is there. Where do they get their funds? But now we have credit guarantee schemes, etc., which has been created by the government.
Right.
But there is a lack of skill. There is a lack of adaptability. There is a lack of management competency. So is this being provided? Pouring out fund is not enough. What we wanted to give them is digital skills. Our eminent scholars were speaking about the digitalization. And when we are going for a digital mode, are our entrepreneurs able to do digitalized transactions? Are they able? I would say, honestly, the digital skill is very low. Management competency is very low. So organizational risk is very high with the small businesses. So what we have to address is, in addition to the financial assistance, we should also give them organizational management competency skills, a digitalized skill, etc., has to be poured into this. One major problem which has happened in the current time is inflation. And that inflation is based on wages. Input prices has gone down. If you check the WPI data, it is 14.4%. If you look into the CPI data, it is 6.7%. Why? Cost of production is the 100 times more than the cost of living index. This you should find it out. First thing is, our WPI data is 14 to 15%, whereas CPI data is 7%, close to 7%. So there is a lag between the CPI and WPI data. And there are reasons for many reasons for this lag. One of the reasons may be the menu cost. That menu cost theory, which I bar it up. Main problem for the industry is that input costs have increased, labor cost has increased, energy cost has increased, cement, metals, all these prices have increased. What are we exporting? We are the largest of India's export is petrol, and largest of India's import is also crude. So what we are importing is what we are exporting. The second largest item which we are exporting is gold jewelry, and second largest item we are importing is gold. So what are our exports? Our exports are our imports. But one mistake what we have done is, we have imposed 4.5% customs duty on our imports, telling that is a making India protectionist policy. That is wrong. When we are imposing a custom duty on our import, our exports become costly, and we are no more export competent in the global market. So this was one of the major problem which has disrupted the MSME unit, now increasing the customs duty. But it was a disguised argument, and disguised argument is a protectionist policy for our Indian industry. Mr. Gupta,
Yes, sir.
if you look into the integrity, if you look honestly, these are the realities of the MSME sector. We do not have laborers, wages have shot up, energy cost has shot up. Now, my friend was telling about moving to alternative energy, solar system. Now, do you have that capacity to move to a solar system at the smaller level? This is a question mark. Do we see, we are still, the corporate sector like automobiles are now just at the verge of moving to solar system. Let us wait whether this MSME also can be brought into the system of solar energy, and thereby they can reduce the energy cost, the electricity cost. No, it is not possible. So what we should do is, what is the immediate sops that should be given to them is reduce the taxes. That should have been the
Sir,
main basis.
sir, what you're talking about the solar,
Ah.
I think solar is playing very, very important role
Yeah.
under the economy.
Correct.
Their cost has reduced drastically.
Yes.
When we are talking about the hydro, we are talking about the other generation, this is solar is important. I
Very
think
good.
I will request Mr. Sinha.
Yeah.
I think you can supplement something, sir.
Sir, I'm very happy that Dr. Xavier took up the topic of solar. And Dr. Xavier, each and every point that you are saying, I think it's wonderful to take even as a panelist. But now let me give you an example, sir, how solar can reduce your operational cost when you adopt, and it's not a cost what people think. And I think Mr. Mundra, who's sitting here, and Dr. Gupta will agree. I'll give you two examples, sir. Number one, state of Tamil Nadu. Sir, the amount of solar parks that state government has now initiated is an example of SMEs, is an example to large corporates. Please go and adopt solar. Sir, there are solar parks. They have designated solar parks. Now, I work with family offices. We have our own family fund for solar. Now, I propose either you go for a rooftop, which is net metering, or you go for open access. You have one above 1 megawatt. Dr. Gupta, trust me, it affects positive on your cash flows. It brings down your operational cost drastically, because of which today financial institution like State Bank of India is very, very aggressive in designing policies where they are funding SMEs, they're making available funds to SMEs who wants to go for solar adoption. This is their savings. It's not only because they're asking for some collateral, they're asking for some margin money, but they also see the amount of savings that they have done. It is a very, very positive move, and sooner or later, for sustainability, Mr. Gupta, MSMEs, SMEs, large corporates have to go and adopt solar.
Very
Thank you.
Very
I agree.
important. Sir, I am coming to Mr. Rajesh Mundra.
Yeah.
Mundra, sir, he is a Deputy General Manager with the Indian Bank. Mr. Rajesh Mundra is an MSc, MBA, CA IIB, PGD HR. He joined Indian Bank on 30th March 1992. He is presently working as a Deputy General Manager, Field GM Office in Mumbai. Before that, he worked in UP, Rajasthan, Delhi, Chandigarh, Punjab, Karnataka, Jharkhand, and in different assignments. Mundra sir, so you listen to our eminent speakers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We are also feeling that, sir, the challenges faced by the SME sector. So this is a high cost of credit. So previously, you are linked with the repo rate. Now repo is increasing due to inflation or something like that. And bank is also insisting for the credit worthiness of the borrowers. And there is complex lending procedures. Beside that, limited access to the finance to the SME sector, because we are feeling like that about 24 or 26% are getting the finance from the banking sector. Otherwise, in unorganized sector, they are availing it. So have any views around that? Because as a banker, you are handling so many zones also. Please give your view on that SME financing, sir.
Yeah, sure, Gupta sir, sure. And before I reply your this query, a very interesting topic was going on in on which Mr. Ravi Nandan sir and Xavier sir was deliberating. That is solar energy. That is quite close to the nature topic, and and a lot can be discussed on those issues. And every discussion will benefit entire Earth. So I'm not touching that, but I wanted to deliberate on that issue at length.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Because Ravi sir has just given the snapshot of that solar importance of that solar energy, and every bank, including Indian Bank, is having a lot of promotional schemes for solar, and we are incorporating that solar cost even in our project cost also. or on concessional rate. So let's come to our MSME financing. And as you told, mainly if we see MSME, it is largely unorganized sector. Largely unorganized sector. And if we, even in MSME, if we go for micro and small, leave aside medium industries, and nowadays have a bigger assets and also having a bargaining power also. But if we see the micro and small units, which is forming more than 80% of total MSME entrepreneurs, how they access this market, financing market, and how this financial market respond to them, that is very important part. If we say they are unorganized, mainly because of their business models, their buyers, their suppliers, they are not following the accounting standards. They are not following the proper record maintenance. They are not maintaining the receipts and payments and invoices. And because of that, as any financial institution measure their creditworthiness or their financial requirement on the basis of their accounts, on the basis of their records. Unfortunately, this unorganized sector and smaller micro and small units, they are not trained enough to keep their financial records proper. Probably maybe lack of knowledge, probably maybe lack of resources or lack of time. Indian Bank started one scheme, Prerna, that is purely for the training of these entrepreneurs. It is not related to finance. Prerna is only give how MSME manage their affairs so that they can be they can reach those financial institutions for their any requirement. So in that way, the gap in skills, the gap in knowledge make them somewhat not eligible to get the traditional financial system, the benefit of traditional financial system, and thereby even if they approach finance, their whatever their actual requirement, it is actually assessed much below, because their income tax filing records, their GST filing records, everything is not as proper as some bigger industries or bigger businessmen are having, and thereby they are in a position to get bigger financial chunk as well as at lower rate. They get the benefit from both sides, whereas micro and small units, they get lesser finance at a higher rate. So that also reduces their financial viability. That again is a big issue. So training and skill development is a part, but this new fintech, the product offered digitally, even our bank has also started offering this mudra units 100% online, point to point through portal finance. Just few clicks and you get the amount credited in your account. That part of this is P2P, and this is compiled by those fintech companies, and now even public sector banks also started in this route, and thereby even in the remotest corner, finance is going to be available for those units. Yes, digitalization is still at its nascent stage. It will take some time to develop, but definitely it is improving. It is improving, and the financial need of those MSMEs are being addressed continuously. Sir.
Mr. Mundra, what you're talking about the micro, what you're talking about the micro is not getting the finance. Now NBFC entering into a co-lending arrangement with the bankers. Have any views for that? Because
yes, definitely.
It can be useful for the micro, sir.
Definitely, it is useful because it was thought earlier only brick and mortar. Why the government was insisting on increasing the network of branches, brick and mortar branches. In every rural branch, there was a guideline. The population above 5,000 in every village, there should be one branch or there should be one BC. But with the invent of this NBFC and fintech collaboration, entire system was disrupted. What was earlier thought of impossible to cater the needs of 5,000, 10,000 rupees of a very small entrepreneur now made it possible through NBFC, co-lending and fintech. Now it is possible and the amount is reaching them. That is the big change in this financial market and their requirement. And co-lending arrangement with NBFC, although the costing of NBFC is little bit higher from the banks, but that is also one part. But availability of finance, making finance available to those remote and smaller segment of the society, definitely that will create a good impact on overall industries.
Mundraji, what you're talking about the digital lending, which you are feeling that immediately account can be credited. This is the one issue where shift is there, fundamental shift from the traditional lending to a digital lending. We are talking about the digital lending. And your bank also introduced, and there also a scheme where in 59 minutes we are talking about you can process the proposal and give a principal sanction. Have any view on that, sir?
Definitely. Earlier, when if we talk about our conventional banking, we have to search out each and every paper. We have to work out their means KYC, document verification, then their income verification. But what in PSB is 59 minutes, everything is being verified, certified online, and the proposal, whatever being uploaded, is already tested through various portals, and bankers have a big comfort that whatever applicant is there is already tested through data analytics through this online mode. And definitely, although it is not picked up as expected, but definitely the future belongs to this.
Another last point, what I am asking as a banker, because we are insisting on the creditworthiness of the borrower. We are talking about the party is not creditworthy, we are not giving. What is mean of this creditworthiness we are talking about when digital banking is coming and 59 other? What is the creditworthiness? What you can have a view and anything about the creditworthiness, sir? Because my people asking me, what is creditworthiness? Bank is also asking, what is the creditworthiness is not there. How you spell
Yeah. Really, Gupta sir, this word carries the meaning more than what it conveys through words. Actually, the in-depth meaning is much different than what we generally used. But the in the basic form, whether the person deserve the amount of credit he wants is to be verified through his existing resources, through existing business line, through his past track record, and whatever he is projecting to do, whether he is capable to do that. So that put together all these issues, we decide whether he is for that particular amount, whether he is creditworthy or not.
Very nice. I will come back to you, Mr. Mundra. Now I'm coming to CA, Mr. Mani Mekran. He is a professor director, Chennai Port Trust Implies Credit Societies Bank Limited. He is responsible for handling the indirect taxation assignment for a corporate and HNI engaged in the field of manufacturing, trading, and service sector, and handling forensic audit for the bank and insurance company. Now, question is audit. When we are talking about any account gone bad, so bank insists for the forensic audit. So just I want to have his views of say, Mr. Mani. How you feel that by this forensic audit and how the indirect, you can say, audit or statutory auditor is helping the banker to identify the sickness in the banking sector. So have any view, Mr. Mani?
Very good evening. I am Manimaran Kadresan. Thank you for this opportunity. And very good evening, our co-learned panelists. So, sir, before giving reply to your questions, I have to answer Mr. Xavier sir one of the questions regarding import. So, whenever we are importing Sir said we have to pay custom duty, that is more costlier. There is a scheme in indirect taxations. So whenever the persons are importing the goods and then they are processing and exporting the same, they don't want to pay indirect taxes. It means they don't want to pay custom duty at all. There's a schemes are there in indirect taxation, but the problem is many MSME are not aware about that system. That is a very big size problem. And one more thing, whatever taxes they have paid in domestic, means whatever taxes paid in India is like indirect taxes like GST or VAT, whatever it is, that can be get us refunded. So it can be refunded by the MSME. So it is also possible because for export of services, the government will not ask any taxations. They have to pay, but once the export is completed and they have received the money, it means called repatriate that money to their bank account, then they can avail the refund from the department. So it will be credited in their bank account, or they will give some scripts so they can again adjusted with their future liability as well. So that one I have to answer Saviour's questions. And one more doubt asked for, sorry, one more discuss with Mr. Rajesh Mundra sir regarding books of accounts keeping. So that for MSME, the problem is in our direct taxes, in our income tax act, until 5 crore, they don't want to maintain the books of accounts. So if you are thinking about that, they can declare without maintaining any books of account, they file the returns. It's called section 44 AD. So now previously it was 1 crore, now it is increased to 5 crore. So obviously they never prepare the books of accounts. But however, they definitely prepare the tax invoices as well as purchase invoices, because for them that the GST is applicable. Because of GST applicable, they should maintain the invoices and purchase invoices. So that definitely they have. But many of them, they will not prepare the books of account. The many MSMEs are giving books of account only because of getting loan from the banks and financial institutions. Otherwise, they never bother about them. So because our taxation system also not implementing, they have to maintain the books of accounts. Because of that, they're not doing so. So this is also one of the answer I have to say that. And coming to the forensic accounting, we are doing forensic accounting for the already NPA unit. It is a postmortem. So we are not giving any job during the course of what is that pre forensic audit. We are not doing, only postmortem forensic audit only we are doing. It is already declared fraud, but we are going and verifying that whether this fraud related to directors or related to mismanagement by all the directors or any particular director, or any misrepresentation made by some of the employees where they are working. So in that case, many statutory auditors, they do not come to know, because some of the directors and some of the employees who were working in some like they may like the CEO or CFO, they directly deal with managing director or executive director, and they are looting their money into their bank account. That definitely happens, and many transactions they have done in cash. So where they did the forensic audit, no. So in there, they took money as a cash and they have deposited in their bank account. So that was done by the managing director of the company and helping with the help of CFO. That happens. That will not be found out by the auditor who has did, because the statutory auditor will not go and check in depth. The person who is doing fraud, they maintain the books of account in a proper manner. So you can see all the vouchers, you can see all the preparer sign and receiver signs and authorization signs, everything will be there. So we have to check whether the fund is going through the proper channel or not. But the auditor came, no. So that time they check they will do verifications only for that the cash withdrawn for what purpose they have withdrawn, whether it's utilized or not. And most probably statutory auditors will check maximum statutory compliances and whether they have paid everything, and they will do some general ledger scrutiny. So in that time, they may not able to find out this kind of fraud. So that's a problem. But as I said earlier, many fraud companies, they are maintaining the books of account in a proper manner. So it is not possible to find out during the stat audit. Yes, sir.
Mani, I think you have rightly touched the point. What I think one of my friends, Dr. Professor, has raised it, indirect taxes, just like GST or import duty, the entrepreneur has to pay. Once export has been completed, it can be refunded. I think this is
Yes.
the major aspect of what you are talking about.
Yes, sir.
And further, you are talking about up to 5 crore. There is no point to maintain the books of account as per the Income Tax Act. Still, banks are asking for the
Yes.
things are there. So you are also asking, advising our members that you should have a proper books. Why I ask a forensic audit? Because of audit is also important aspect, and you are the right person. So what do you advise? That proper channel, proper transaction should be taken place in the account, so that the possibility of any fraud or the things should not be happened. I think this is the major aspect. Have any advice to the our members in respect of anything for which your expertise is there?
See that nowadays the books of account is mandate, but many of the entrepreneurs will not worried about their accounts and as well as their bank accounts and whatever payment, everything. They are calculating everything in their own mind. So they are checking that, okay, this one, that purchase cost is 200 rupees and we are selling to 300 rupees. So 100 rupees is our profit. And many of these small entrepreneurs, they are calculating their profit on their mind. They never bother about the maintaining the books of accounts. Even though when we are asking them to implement that accounts is more important, we have to prepare that, but they are not about they are not worried about that time. They will tell that yes, we will maintain from next year onward, but after that they never said that no, we will do that, we will do again, because they are worried about to pay the accountant salary, because they are concerned about I have to pay, if I want to maintain the books of account, then I have to pay 5,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees for account. So that is the major criteria for them. What they are thinking about, that if that money, if I am spending to my sales representative, then they will do another or 10 lakh or 15 lakhs sales. So it will be increase their sales around. So likewise, they are thinking about that. But my advice is, even though whatever you are doing your sales or whenever you are increasing the sales, that whatever you are paying for accountant salary, it is not about your reducing that cost. It is all about you are saving the cost, so that when they are maintaining the books of account, they come to know what are all expenses they made. Say for example, from the from suppose if they are paying from freight inward or freight outward, and EV, and whatever they are paying for loading and unloading, because for small business also they are paying a lot of freight inward and freight outward, that too they are paying in cash. At the same time, they also don't know how much amount they paid, they forget about that, and they paid from this money from their pocket, not even from their bank account or not even from their that cash whatever petty cash what they are maintaining their company. So the problem is they don't know how much they are spending for their process or spending for their administration expenses. So they are not even identify what is their actual profit. They are worked out only on their mind profit. So when if they are maintaining the books of account, they definitely know how much actual profit it's come. How can we reduce our cost? It say for example, if I am getting a contract from the freight inward and freight outward, and they will give a reduced cost. Suppose I'm not making any contract with them, then I have to pay more amount because I am not having any contract with them. So likewise, many cost implementation process we can do that only when you know how much you are spending for that. So that is not done by the many of the MSME, but some of the MSMEs, they are concerned about their accounts. But out of 100%, 80% of MSME, they are not concerned about their books of account. So my advice to prepare the books of account, though the Income Tax Act does not require to maintain the books of account, it is for you, not for the department.
Very nice, very nice, Manish sir. Now I am coming back to Shri Ravi and Sinha. So, sir, you had discussed about the external threat, adoption, digital, and cash flow. I think what your discussion is very useful for our members. Even the bankers are also here in this webinar. So I think it is very useful. Lastly, sir, any advice to the members from your side? Any advice, any so that it can be beneficial for their day-to-day working? And Mr. Sinha.
Mr. Gupta, there are 2-3 things which are takeaways, and I think I will also tell the members. Now, as Mr. Mundra very nicely said about a scheme which Indian Bank has floated, which trains the entrepreneur. Now, I would always like to emphasize, and you were also had all full praise for the word when Dr. Xavier said about SME school. It is your self-development, knowledge and awareness which matters a lot. It goes a long way in your sustainability and in your business growth. Whatever today we have discussed, whatever today we have spoken, Mr. Gupta, right approach will be to enhance your knowledge, to enhance your skill, be aware of what is happening, whether Mr. Maniraman is saying about direct taxes, Mr. Mundra is saying about Varsha program or the PSB 59 minutes, or what Dr. Xavier is emphasizing on this. It all boils down to how well skilled you are. I will just quote in the end. There was a McKinsey report which was prepared. And it is very, very alarming, this McKinsey report, Mundra Saab. It mentions, Dr. Xavier, there is a productivity gap of more than 30% between a large corporate and SMEs. Now, this affects sustainability, this affects perpetually growth, this affects whatever in the banking language you say, it affects everything. It is only happening because a large corporate is more favorable to circumstantial adoption than an SME is what it is doing today. Sir, an SME to understand a 59 minutes PSB will be difficult, but it has to accept that those checklists are available. You just have to put it and you have to go. The saddest point till date, what I feel when I go out in the meetings, in the seminar, when I meet, till date, bankers have to tell that go for credit ratings. Why is that? It is not as a DNA inbuilt. It is because we are not aware of our powers. I would just like to say, sir, without offense to anything, sir, हमें अपनी शक्तियों की याद दिलानी पड़ेगी, sir. What are we capable of? And all the advisors who are with FAI, sir, it is time for their interventions. Sir, मैं एक ही चीज बोलूंगा गुप्ता साहब ऑन द लाइटर नोट, सचिन तेंदुलकर नहीं बनते सर अगर उनके कोई कोच नहीं होते सर.
Right.
सर हम रमाकांत आचरेकर सर को कभी नहीं भूलेंगे. And most recently, sir, not to forget, there's a lot of contribution of the coach of Neeraj Chopra also, because of which we got gold medal, sir.
Yes.
And all the advisors of AFAI and should be treated like a coach, like a mentor.
Very nice. Very
And should
nice
be
message.
taken in the board.
Very nice message, sir. You are conveyed at the end. Let they should work as a coach like a Tendulkar. सेकंड, योर टच अबाउट दी अपनी शक्ति को संभालिए, जैसे हनुमान जी को भी बताना पड़ा था
जी,
तुम्हारी क्या शक्ति है. दैट्स व्हाई ही कैन फ्लाई to Sri Lanka. Unless he told about the Shakti, I think that all the our members should tell their own power. So I think this is a great message, Mr. Sinha sir, you have given to our members. Now I'm coming to Dr. Sir, B.K. Javed sir. So sir, you have touched very rightly all the points, whether you are talking about equity, you are talking about the SME university, you are talking about the willful doing something, and creditors liquidations. By creditors, you can liquidate and you can bail out the SME sector, sir. I think well thought, sir. Well thought what you are talking about. So my last word, sir, to any your advice to our members, sir.
Yes, I have summarized my 2 points from what in the introductory opening remark which I made was one was about debt repudiation, forgiveness of the debts of those who are naturally into a debt calamity, and opening of a university where which we have data-driven research and guidance. Now, let me close my remarks with the compounded annual growth rate of MSME in India is 18.5% from 2019 to 2020. Loan dispersal to MSME was 9.5 trillion in 21, which was 6.8 trillion in 2020. So what is the significance we are now giving to MSME is driven from this. And again, we have also brought retail and wholesale also as a part of the MSME business. Budget allocation of 2022, there was 15,700 crores vis-a-vis 7,572 crores in 2021. There is a 50% increase in allocation to the MSME. Sir, I will close with one remark from quoting from Mahabharata. Mrs. Kunti Devi had 5 children, but Kunti Devi will cook and will serve 2/3 of the food to Bhima. Remaining is shared between herself and other 4 children. Did Kunti Devi knew the metabolism of Bhima, and that's one of the reasons why we are giving much of the share of the cooked food to Bhima and others are sacrificed. Sir, we have done enough to agriculture. From 15 million tons, we have grown to 400, almost 398 million tons of food grain production. This was because we were giving too much, we were giving much to the agricultural sector. We had the green revolution, we have high yielding varieties, we have chemical fertilizers. All this has led to what was our sustainability in food sector. What was a mistake of India? Manufacturing sector was bypassed. We went from an agrarian society to a service sector. But that is not the process of development. Economic development should happen from agricultural sector to manufacturing sector to tertiary sector. But we have bypassed the manufacturing sector. This was a sheer neglect. And we have not attended the MSMEs. We were focusing on public sector undertakings for 50 years, and all those became sad stories. All what is happening to our public sector, our Air India, all our public sector banks also, what they have created value to this. My last submission is that let us have equity. Let us give a fair share to everyone. Agriculture had share, manufacturers should have their share. We have neglected, and I have told and I repeat, this MSME was an orphan child. And this orphan child has to be adopted by the government. It has to be adopted by the banks, and it has to be nurtured. That's what my humble submission to you, sir.
So, Dr. Saab, greatly you have mentioned about the green revolutions, what you are talking about. and service sector also. Service sector has grown like anything. लेकिन manufacturing sector, I 100% agree with you, has not given a proper attention for that. I think that is a message uh, to the listener. The manufacturing sector is backbone of the industry. Whether you're talking about the SME sector or you're talking about anything, if your manufacturing sector is okay, then your export, your economy can also be grown. Thank you very much, sir. I'm coming to Rajesh Mundra, sir. Rajesh Mundra, sir, I think you touched very rightly. They were talking about 59-minute or digital banking or something like that. Any last words from to the our participants, sir?
Yeah, definitely, Gupta sir. Uh, my last remark about the banks and government and every organization is open to MSME. There are number of organizations ready to support MSME. Just approach them. Banks are open-heartedly welcome you. Just approach them. Don't hesitate. Number two part, maintain all your records. I agree with Mani Maran sir, who suggested, he pointed out that as per income tax, it is okay. But for your own growth, for your own knowledge, for your own management, record keeping is very, very important. Very important. I just want to quote one very, very basic example. A vegetable vendor buy vegetables 100, 200, 300 a day, sell it in the market and come back, earn 1,000 rupees. Out of those 1,000 rupees, he repay the thela cost, he repay the borrowing cost and barely save 50 to 100 rupees. The major earning, actually he earned a lot. Similarly, MSME is having a huge potential of earning, but because of their higher cost, they earn for others. Their costing is too high and they are not aware of that cost that they can save it. Even if they save the cost, they can manifold their return. So keep proper records, save your cost, that is equivalent to your earning.
Very, very important, sir. Just I am giving you one example. I was in Bihar somewhere. I'm talking about 78. There is one basket maker. So I was actually deputed from the banking side to district industry center as a manager credit. So when I met him, so he was telling he borrow 10 rupees and pay 4 rupees interest per day.
Oh my God.
That was the position. So I have given them 100 rupees loan, where 50% is subsidized by the government. Only he has to repay 50 rupees. And you can say within a period of 6 months or 7 months, his domestic life, economic life has undergone a change. And when I've shown him the 100 rupees by the banker, so he was beeping. He was telling them, this 100 rupees note I have never seen. At that time, it was a big note of 100 rupees. But just I am telling you, the cost of funds, cost of the borrowing for the macro are great, great. I'm telling you, there is a Pathan interest they are charging. If we can do something for that, I think I'm talking about 50 years back, 78. I'm talking about 78. Now the position had undergone might have gone changed, drastically changed. That was the point. Sorry, out of the context of emotions, I tell the issues in that respect. So I'm coming to Sri Mani sir. Mani sir, have any view for that year and to any advice?
Yes, sir. So my first advice is whoever register under the GST Act, they have to file their return on a monthly basis, because many MSME schemes loan and bankers are checking only whether you have filed the GST returns or not, because many MSME, they are not maintained their books of accounts and they have only GST registration. So they have to file their return without delay. At the same time, without any further delay. For example, the due date is 10th or due date is 20th, they have to file the return. And many of the MSME company, they took the registration and they have not filed the return at all. Because of that, their GST registration is cancelled and they are not able to do business at all. So once they are, suppose it's a proprietary concern and they took GST registration, if their registration is cancelled and that has not been able to revoke, because once 30 days has happened, they have to go for appeal, and likewise many complaints they have to follow that. So if they have not filed the return and their GST registration is cancelled, if they are a proprietary concern, they are not able to take another registration in their name itself. That is also very, very difficult for doing the business. So my humble request is, once you took the registration, whether you have a business or whether you don't have a business, even though zero sales, you have to file the nil return, so that it will be helpful for your when you have a sales. This is my first request. And the second request is, many of the MSME industries are are not known about uh, schemes given for the export of business. Many of the MSME business. So I have also talked about the schemes, export schemes, because many schemes are available. RODTP scheme, MSME, MES scheme, SEA scheme. So likewise, many schemes are available. They have to understand, and they at least known about what is the schemes, or if you are not able to understand, you just ask with your advisor, definitely they will help you. So without, if you are doing any export, or if you are going to do any import, you please consult with your advisors, definitely they will help you, because many schemes are available. So this is my two humble requests.
Thank you, sir, very much. At the end, I am extremely sorry that I extended the period about 25 minutes. So sorry for that. In all my webinar, is such so much interest people are shown by all the eminent speakers, and their viewpoint are taken into considerations. So I have lust that we should listen to them. Even still, I am feeling so many questions to be asked. Again, time constraint is always there. So at the end, I am thankful to respected Ravi and Sinha sir, who is very eminent person and given the great advice to our members, bankers, and participants. I'm thankful to Dr. V.K. Javier sir, who is very, very thorough in his knowledge and touch all the eminent speaker practical things, not any theoretical we are talking about. And we are thankful to Sri Rajesh Mundra sir, who is just notice of himself 1 hour, 2 hours, so he's ready to address us. And he is a banker expert, a banker, and having a very knowledgeable person. I must appreciate his viewpoint he has given to us. I am thankful to CA Manimaran, who is very, very thorough in indirect taxes, and he highlighted that all the exporters, if they are import duty, other GST, can be refunded. There's no point for that. Like they will have to pay. Whether we can think in that respect, government, why they should pay and then get the refund because their working capital is stuck up in that portion. That is also views. So I'm thankful to all the eminent speakers. I'm also thankful to Mr. Surinder Pal Singh, who is a director of associations for the Financial Advisor of India. And I am also thankful to Mr. R. De Preda and Mr. Lokesh Yadav, who is behind the scene making this webinar successful. I think I consider this webinar will be useful for the participant who attended these webinars. Lastly, I can only request all the participants as members, let they should become the member of the Association of Financial Advisor of India, because it is a association which is giving a knowledge to the participant, to the bankers, even to the entrepreneurs. And if they become the member, it will strengthen us to negotiate with the government also. That like a association for mutual fund, our association can also be recognized and it can be beneficial for the financial advisors also. That my request to you. And on behalf of the Research in India, because Research in India is the main backbone of this webinar, to which we are a merchant banker, we are investment banker, and we are also conducting technical, economic, and viability study also. On behalf of myself and Research in India and associations. I'm thankful to all my participants and all the eminent speakers. With this, I close this session. Thank you very much.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Guru,
Rajesh.
thank you for
Thank
being a wonderful anchor. You are a wonderful anchor, noting
Thank
down
you.
everything and coordinating very well. So we were very privileged that we had a very nice anchor.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir. Thank you very much.